Hey guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Cheyenne, and on my channel I like to talk about learning different languages, studying, and especially studying Japanese. So in this video I want to talk about my language learning goals for the next year. As I'm recording this video, it's still 2023, it's December, but it's only a few days left before 2024, and I want to be very intentional about learning languages, especially next year, because I feel like I haven't been advancing as much as I would like to, and I feel like I've been pretty stagnant in my Japanese learning journey. I saw like a comment on one video that I was watching, and it said something like a language learning plateau, and I think that perfectly sums up where I'm at right now. Is definitely like a language plateau. Like, I'm not really advancing, but I'm not decreasing either, but I'm not going anywhere in my journey right now. I'm kind of like, I feel like I'm learning the same thing over and over again. I keep learning words and reviewing words that I've learned in high school, which was over a decade ago, and also I keep learning the same like grammar points and sentence structures that I've already learned. And so it's just like I want to challenge myself more. That's one of my goals for learning Japanese. And another reason why haven't been I've been pretty stagnant with learning Japanese is because I've been very preoccupied with learning other languages. I kind of got that like new language high with Korean and Chinese, because this year I've started learning Chinese, and I also learned Hangul for Korean. And so I spent a lot of time doing that. I spent a significant amount of time learning Hangul and like learning different things, like learning Chinese vocabulary words and the grammar. And I also watched videos in Chinese too. So even that, like, I spent a lot of time learning Chinese and Korean and not enough time learning Japanese, and I want to change that. So another thing that I've lacked this year in terms of my language learning journey, especially with Japanese, is not keeping track of my progress. I've realized that I kind of just go with the flow, and I want to be more intentional and more mindful of how I'm actually learning and studying, instead of just learning and not even keeping track of like new vocabulary words, new grammar points, things like that. But yeah, I'll get into more of how I'm gonna actually structure the way that I study in 2024 and in the coming new year. But so what I wanted to say lastly before I get into the tips is that next year I really want to focus solely on Japanese. I think that like learning Korean and Chinese and all those other languages that I've been learning is really fun and helpful, but it's kind of interfering with my Japanese journey. And next year I really want to focus on advancing in Japanese so that I can reach the goals that I have, and so that I can eventually become fluent and really advanced in Japanese. And so I just want to go all in on just Japanese next year. So now that I've kind of reflected on my 2023 and the things that I've learned, the mistakes and the setbacks that I've had, now we can get into the actual goals that I have for learning Japanese. So for 2024, one of the goals that I want to focus on is speaking Japanese. That's something that I've lacked for a long time. Like, I've always been very self-conscious to speak with a native speaker. Even now, like, I mean, I've been to Japan and I've spoken with native Japanese speakers and just people that speak Japanese in general, but I kind of did that for like survival, but I want to do it more often. And in general, I just want to speak in Japanese in my everyday life. Even though I don't have anyone to talk to in terms of speaking Japanese, I just want to like practice that routine of saying words out loud in Japanese. So basically, even if I have to talk to myself out loud in Japanese, that is totally fine as long as I'm actually putting into practice what I hear and what I see when I'm reading. Or I can even do things like reading articles out loud or repeating what other YouTubers are saying as I'm like watching Japanese YouTubers. Just things like that. Just practicing with my pronunciation and just getting comfortable with speaking Japanese out loud. So my next goal is reading Japanese. So I can read hiragana and katakana already well because I've learned that years ago and it's been impressed in my subconscious. Like luckily I didn't really forget it, which is a really huge blessing because I've kind of been studying Japanese on and off for years and I never really had to like restudy hiragana and katakana again, which is really great. But in terms of kanji, I only know about 200 with 200 characters, which sounds like a lot, but it's really not because there's over 2,000 essential kanji that I need to know. So I still have like 2,000 more kanji characters to go. So I need to work on that, definitely. So one of the reasons why I only know a few hundred kanji characters is because I get so overwhelmed easily with how many characters there are and it's just so much to learn. And I've actually developed a better strategy where instead of trying to memorize each individual character, I can actually learn the kanji characters in context. For example, instead of memorizing one character for Asagohan, I can just memorize how to read Asagohan in its full context. Or a better example would be trying to memorize the kanji character he, because he has a lot of different pronunciations and different meanings. So instead of just memorizing that one character on its own, I can memorize it in different contexts like Ichigatsu or Suyobi, which both have the kanji character he in it. And so instead of trying to just memorize he by itself, even though it's already a word, that's kind of a different example, but I can memorize that as one word, but then also just memorize the other vocabulary words instead of memorizing one by one and memorizing kanji characters by itself, because not all kanji characters by itself have a word. Like the word for Mizu is just one kanji character, but that's not always the case for everything. A lot of kanji characters they have a meaning, but they don't really mean anything by itself. It usually has a meaning when it's connected with other characters and with some hiragana as well. And so that's how I want to learn. I just want to learn by practicing memorizing how to read the kanji character vocabulary words instead of trying to memorize each kanji character individually. Hopefully that made sense. So I think one thing that I got right about my language learning journey this year is immersion, because I've tried to actually immerse myself in Japanese by watching a lot of Japanese YouTubers that are just speaking freely and speaking naturally, and so that's been really helpful. And then I would also read on Google, like I would translate articles or just any type of forum that I was on, and I would translate it from English, which is my native language, to Japanese. And so I would just practice reading as if I would just browse on the internet normally, but doing it in Japanese. And that was a huge game changer, and I feel like that was very helpful in terms of learning Japanese and just getting comfortable with seeing Japanese every day and incorporating the language in my everyday life, because that's not something that I do as often, which sounds really, really bad because I really should be incorporating Japanese into my everyday life at this point, and I haven't been doing that as much as I should. So definitely next year in 2024, I really want to go all in terms of incorporating Japanese in my everyday life. I want to browse on the internet in Japanese. I want to watch more Japanese YouTubers, and I even found this app where you can actually dub your video that you watch on YouTube in a different language. So if, let's say for example, I'm watching a video in English, I can dub the video in Japanese. It's just like a text-to-speech voice, but it's still helpful just to have the sound of Japanese speaking in my head and having a Japanese voice as I'm watching regular YouTube videos. So basically I would just watch YouTube like regularly, except so when I'm watching like an English YouTuber, it's dubbed in Japanese, so I'm listening to the English speaking and Japanese at the same time. So it's like I'm keeping up with both languages, and that could sound a little bit confusing, but it's kind of like I'm teaching myself to be bilingual. It's kind of like how bilingual children just pick up on English and another language, or just two languages in general, like how their parents would speak multiple languages to them. That's kind of how this app that I'm talking about works too. And the app that I'm talking about is called LingoTube, and it does have a subscription, but right now I'm using the 7-day free trial. And if I really like the app, I probably will purchase a subscription, because I think it's going to be extremely helpful for my immersion, because right now I have a lot of free time, so I have a lot of time to just watch YouTube videos. That's usually what I do on my free time anyway, so I'm just doing things that I would do normally, except just incorporating learning Japanese into my everyday routine and like everyday activities that I do during the day. So another thing that I've done to stay immersed in learning Japanese is changing the settings in my phone from English to Japanese. And so now pretty much the majority of the apps on my phone is in Japanese, like my notes app, the photo editing app, and every app that I have. And it's really helpful because, again, like I still don't know a lot of kanji, and it can be very intimidating because a lot of the settings and words are in kanji and I only know like 200, but thankfully I know enough to get by, and I can use context as well. Like for example, when you download an app and it says ask app not to track, and then I see the kanji character that I don't know, but then I see shinai after that, and I know nai means like the negative form of something, and so that I assume that means like no, or asking app not to track your data. So I basically just use context clues, and thankfully it's not just all kanji, it's also hiragana as well, and so I can pick up on different words and characters, and I can understand for the most part what I'm reading. But it's really helpful to just immerse myself in Japanese just by using my phone, because I use my phone every day and for the majority of the day anyway. So it's really helpful to read Japanese as I'm just doing my everyday activities on my phone. But yeah, so those are the 3 goals that I have for my Japanese language learning journey. It's speaking, reading, and immersion in everyday life and activities. But I kind of want to get into the methods that I want to use and how I'm gonna actually stick with this goal, because to be honest, I struggle with consistency and discipline. I know it's normal, because I know that I've seen videos where it says, I think it's around like 80% or like 90% of people don't even stick to their New Year's resolutions past January. So it's not out of the ordinary for people to just quit their goals, but I do not want to quit my goal. I want to be one of the few percentages of people that actually stick with what they say they're going to do for the new year. And that's why I've pretty much already started. Instead of waiting till 2024, I'm just starting now, and I'm already incorporating the ways that I'm learning Japanese right now to develop that habit already. But I want to talk about this new hack that I've learned that is kind of mind-blowing for me, even though it's like a very simple thing. So most people learn languages by translating the word. Like, for example, you translate a Japanese word into your native language, like you're translating the word hon, and then you'd be like, hon means book in English. But I think that I want to start actually translating from English to Japanese instead, because it takes more brain power and more mental work in order to actually think of the Japanese equivalent for an English word. Like, instead of being like, oh, ashi means leg, I could be like, what is the word for leg in Japanese? So I would say leg means ashi instead of saying ashi means leg. And I know it sounds kind of like it seems like it doesn't make much of a difference, but I've noticed that when I learn from English to Japanese instead of Japanese to English, I actually understand more, because like I said, it takes more brain power and more mental work to actually think of the word for your target language. So one of the ways that I incorporate this hack that I've learned is, again, with YouTube. So when I watch videos in English, I just turn on the Japanese subtitles. So as I'm hearing the words in English, I'm also reading the translation in Japanese. So it's going again from English to Japanese instead of translating Japanese into English. And again, that makes such a huge difference, because I'm learning how to say words in Japanese that I didn't even think of saying. Just everyday words, instead of just like the words that a textbook gives you. I'm actually learning words that I didn't even think of just by translating from my native language to Japanese. So it's really cool, and I think that if you're someone that translates from Japanese to your native language, try to switch it and see how that works, because I think it could be a huge help and it could be a game changer for sure. I forgot to mention that I actually wrote down my goals in this notebook right here, and the notebook has different life goals beyond learning languages, but one of my goals is to reach a high intermediate level and being comfortable speaking, reading, and writing in Japanese as if I lived in Japan. So another method that I'm going to use in order to advance is by taking practice Japanese tests, which is the JLPT. And if you don't know what the JLPT is, it's basically a Japanese proficiency language test, and it's the official test that people use in Japan in order to test your proficiency in the language. But you can also use it outside of Japan. There's a lot of apps and different like language learning centers or colleges that use the JLPT as well to test your knowledge and your skills. And so I'm gonna use different apps such as Easy Japanese, and I'm gonna use, like, every month I want to track my progress by taking at least one practice test at the end of the month, basically to see where I'm at in terms of my level, because I've only taken the JLPT once. I've taken tests before to test my Japanese in high school and in college. I've taken an official exam in my state in the US called the Lotte exam. It stands for language other than English. And so that's pretty much the only official exam that I've taken that tested my proficiency in Japanese. But that's been years since I've done something like that. And even though I'm not the best test taker, I think it is helpful just to see where you're at. Like, I see the point of having tests, and now that I have my own autonomy in terms of learning, like, I'm not learning just for a grade, I'm learning for my own self-development. So I have a better purpose and reason for actually utilizing tests. And so yeah, like I was saying, I want to do one practice test at the end of every month leading up to 2025, and see where I'm at by the end of the year. So in terms of how long I'm gonna study, I want to study every single day for at least 1 hour. I think if I commit to that, that would be in total 365 hours of studying Japanese. And that might seem a little, but that's actually kind of where I'm at right now. Like, I don't have to study so much because I'm already at an advanced level. I'm just advancing even higher. And even if I dedicate 1 hour, that's gonna make a huge difference, especially if I do it consistently every single day and taking no breaks and just making that habit of learning Japanese and studying Japanese as if I'm brushing my teeth or taking a shower. Just making it a part of my daily routine and making it like an actual force of habit, that's gonna make a major change and a huge impact on my Japanese language learning journey. And so, like I mentioned earlier, I do want to track my progress, and so I'm gonna be using my different notes apps. So I have a lot of different notes apps, but I'm gonna be using 3, and one of them is just a regular Apple Notes app, and then there's Notion. I want to use that as well to track my learning. And then on my iPad, I just downloaded a free notes app. I forgot the name of it, but I'll put it on the screen here so you can see. But I'm gonna use that in terms of like when I'm watching YouTube videos. Again, going back to YouTube, I am a YouTube girly. I love watching YouTube. But anyways, so when I watch Japanese YouTubers, I want to actually write down the vocabulary words that I pick up on and learn and track that. And yeah, that's something that I want to track, because I usually, when I watch videos of, or when I hear like a new word, I just note it down in my head, but I don't actually write it down or put it anywhere. And that is a huge problem. Like, it's because I wanted to learn Japanese naturally without doing it the traditional way. But for me, just learning Japanese, mixing it with the traditional way and a fun way is really helpful. And so I think that taking notes, even though it sounds like something you would do for a boring lecture, it's something that's kind of necessary, especially with Japanese, because there's just so much to learn. Like, you have to take notes basically. So now let's get into my reasoning and my purpose for trying to advance so much in Japanese. So I kind of have many reasons, but I think one of the reasons that I want to focus on for next year, 2025, is making more videos in Japanese. So that's actually a huge goal of mine, because like I said before, I'm very self-conscious about speaking Japanese out loud, and like I'm kind of guarded. Like, actually my high school Japanese teacher was like, you know, Cheyenne's pretty guarded with her Japanese. And now that I'm thinking about it, that's actually true. I am pretty guarded with my Japanese, and I don't want to be that way. I want to share. Like, I think I've evolved in the sense of making YouTube videos, but you guys haven't really heard me speak Japanese that much, and I want to make like full-length videos dedicated to just speaking Japanese. And even if I make mistakes or if I use like Google Translate or whatever, as long as I'm just practicing speaking, that's gonna make a huge difference. And so that's one of the reasons why I want to immerse myself, is because I want to make more videos speaking in Japanese, and I want to make vlogs and sit down chit chat videos in Japanese. So that is one of the main reasons why I want to advance, and that is what I'll be using my Japanese for sure, is making videos speaking in Japanese. So another main reason that I want to advance in my Japanese is because somehow, some way, I will live in Japan. I will find my way back to Japan for sure. But basically, I want to live in Japan temporarily at least. And of course, I want to be able to just speak comfortably. I want to even make friends, because I always have trouble making friends. But I want to make conversation with Japanese people and have Japanese friends, and like develop that camaraderie between the Japanese people. And I just basically want to be comfortable speaking Japanese. Like, I want to be able to order food, I want to be able to read the signs, I want to be able to just do basic things, or even like make phone calls. Like, if, like for example, if I'm living in an apartment and there's something going on with the sink, or like there's something going on with the apartment, I want to be able to call my landlord and just speak casually in Japanese and just get things done naturally as if I'm speaking English, which is my native language. But basically, with all that to say, is that the second reason why I want to advance in Japanese is because at some point I will be living in Japan, and I just want to be able to speak comfortably, especially when it comes to reading and speaking and listening. Those are kind of the three main things that I want to be really, really advanced in. And then the third and final reason is career goals. So I have a couple of career goals that I want to utilize Japanese, and I've been really doubting my Japanese abilities, which is crazy because I've come this far in my Japanese journey, so why would I just give up now and just stay where I'm at? Because I'm not even as advanced as I would like to be. I can definitely, there's so much more to learn in terms of studying Japanese, and I don't want to stay in the same place. But what I'm trying to say is that I have specific career goals in terms of, like, I'm debating if I want to be a teacher and teach Japanese to students. Like, either I want to be like a professor or like a K-12 teacher, or I'm also thinking about being a translator, where I would translate English to Japanese or Japanese to English, but using those two language combinations. I've thought about that for a while, and yeah, those are the two career goals that I'm considering. And so I need to be at a very high level, and reaching a very high intermediate level where I'm near fluent in Japanese is going to open so many doors in terms of the career goals that I want to achieve. And so that is the third reason why I want to advance in learning Japanese. So yeah, that's pretty much it for today's video. I hope this was helpful and motivating, especially if you're someone that's learning Japanese or any language. I hope you got something out of what I was saying, and that what I said made sense, because sometimes I tend to ramble. But anyways, thank you so much for watching, and stay tuned because I will be uploading more consistently and making more videos related to language learning, studying, and Japanese. And yeah, thanks for watching. Bye.